Well, welcome to wesleygospel.com. I would like to talk about uh, the split with the United Methodist Church, and I'm not going to name the name of the denomination because there's no need to. Uh, but there's a major split that happened with the United Methodist Church in the past couple of years. If you look this up, you're going to find the name of the denomination that did this. Now, a while, I was kind of thinking, oh, this is a work of the Holy Spirit. Um, This is good that they did this. I bet you that God's really moving among them. And and so it kind of occurred to me that I would since my blog is all about Wesleyan theology, I figured, oh, I'll ask them uh, to see if I can put their denomination uh, their their denomination graphic on my ministries page and and see, it can have their support spiritually. It can pray for them and show that I'm linked up with them spiritually because they broke away from the United Methodist Church in support of straight marriage against gay marriage, and and uh, and seems to have had an emphasis more towards moving towards Wesleyan theology. You'd think that that was a move of the Holy Spirit, uh, but um, I actually have observed a very politic sort of attitude going on here, and I'm really disappointed. I'm aware that there was one of these pastors had broke away, had a very sloppy agape sort of theology, um, and I recently had emailed these people, and they rejected my blog, wesleygospel.com. They completely rejected it. Um, and these are the people that broke away from the Methodist Church because they wanted to oppose gay marriage. Well, that's the only thing apparently they stand for. That. So basically, everything else is dry rot. Uh, because there's absolutely nothing in common. No, I'm not saying if a person rejects me, they're rejecting the Holy Spirit. But what have I recently posted on that they could possibly be offended about? Let's see. I'm preaching against cessationism, sexual passions. I'm preaching about how Jesus is the Son of God. I'm preaching about people with doubts and Bible contradictions and miracle stories. I'm talking about angel sparkles, Leonard Ravenhill, cessationism again, divine healing, physically feeling the Holy Spirit, prophetic ministry. These are like front and center things, right, that they could see. And of course, uh, my you got my statement of faith, which is charismatic, and then my ebook, which is free, talks about hell and repenting and conditional security. And my whole website is front loaded with John Wesley, right? I mean, you couldn't ask for a more John Wesley themed uh I mean, this is what John Wesley was all about, right? Okay. All right. I might not represent him the best, but I mean, in terms of thematic, right? Content creation and messaging, there should be no problem with them if these people are truly Wesleyan in spirit, right? So my original question to them was, I was wondering if I might post a blank, uh, and I said their denomination name, post a denomination name blank banner link on my ministries page to refer my readers and podcast listeners to. I believe in the mission of blank denomination name and would also invite any feedback and oversight from my blog or ministry. John Bohr of wesleygospel.com. This was their response to me today. Listen to this. Thank you for reaching out and expressing your support for the blank denomination name. While we appreciate your enthusiasm for our mission, unfortunately, we are unable to grant permission to post a banner link to your ministry's page at this time. However, we have no issues with your continued words of support and our praise and our prayer or prayers for the blank denomination name. We are thankful for your commitment to our mission. God bless. No, I am not thankful. I am not committed to your mission. blank denomination name. I was definitely not expecting this type of a response. Listen to how politically church correct this is. Well, we appreciate your enthusiasm for our mission. Unfortunately, we are unable to grant permission. I mean, that is the most business response I've ever seen. There's no spiritual vitality. There's no theological integrity. There's no love for the Bible in any of this. Okay? It's like a business response to a job application. You understand? It's a lukewarm spirit. There's no Wesleyanism in any of this. It's institutional. So, this got me to really thinking, like I was like literally shocked. Like my gears were like just firing around in different directions in my head. Like, why did they respond like this? I was not expecting a response like that. I mean, this was the group that broke away from the Methodist Church and created all these news articles about, we oppose gay marriage. We're against gay marriage. We're breaking away. And I get a response like this. My whole blog is dedicated. I might not be the best guy in the world at it, but my whole blog is dedicated to restoring Wesleyan spirituality, and this is the response I get. You know why? You know what? Now I'm starting to think that this blank denomination name, right? That this denomination is spiritually lukewarm. Why? I mean, it's gotten off on the wrong footing. You'd think, oh, they're getting off on the right foot. They broke away from the Methodist Church because they are against gay marriage. Yeah, but what about their theology? What about their theology? Uh, well, they dragged their feet for 5, 10, 15 years because of finance. Because of church finance. They didn't want to lose their church buildings, right? So what did they do? They towed the line for almost a decade with gays in the church, uh, knowing full well that there were gays and higher critics in the church the whole time, because they didn't want to lose their precious church buildings. So they're full of sloppy agape. This group is not on fire for God. They're full of sloppy agape. They don't have any spirit of Wesleyanism in them. They're not on fire for the Lord. They have nothing to say about Wesley. They have nothing to say. There's no spirit of reformation about them. It's just a church finance debacle is all it is. And the only thing that they're really standing up for is marriage. Whoop-de-doo. It has nothing to do with personal salvation. You know, they're not doing anything. They're not. It's just, the whole thing. No, wrong direction. If you're looking for ministry guidance, that's not the one. Don't go there. It's seeker sensitive, it's sloppy agape, it's cheap grace, it's antinomian. Okay, this we can agree on. We're against gay marriage. Lame. Lame. That's lame. Um, Now, generally speaking, I think that denominationalism is spiritually dangerous. I do. Because of the church finance issue. The church finance issue creates a spiritually a conflicting of interest issue. Preachers don't preach against sin because they're afraid that the church finances might come under attack. There's a fear to preach against sin. And you end up with sloppy agape, you end up with seeker sensitive, and there's constant worry. The pastor's in a constant state of worry. It's not the pastor's fault. It's the denomination setup, you know. The only denomination I've come remotely close to approving across the board is Church of God Cleveland. Church of God Cleveland, Tennessee is the only denomination I've seen where it almost doesn't matter who the pastor is. There's going to be some preaching against sin in those churches. you know. And then, of course, independent fundamental Baptist churches. Those are the only ones. Those are the only ones I've seen it where you could point at an organized church network and say, yeah, yeah, there's still preaching against sin going on in those churches. Some of the preachers are quote unquote better than others, but there's still an attitude of, preaching against sin in those churches. But this church split with the United Methodist Church, they're not a holiness denomination. That's the thing. That's another thing. They're from the mainstream, you know, that Episcopal spirit, of, the mainstream, mainline liberal. So they're so far removed from the spirit of Wesleyanism. I'm I really shouldn't be all that surprised that they really are completely spiritually lukewarm. Like it took them 5, 10 years to finally stop dragging their feet and break away with all these homosexuals and Bible critics and anti-charismatics in the church. I mean, yeah, they're not doing it for spiritual reasons. They're doing it, there's too much conflict interest going on there. So that's no place to be. There's no spirit of revival there. Um, Church of God, you have a better chance. You have a better chance of actually serving the Lord in that denomination, I think, and not having to literally sell your soul to the devil, right? Um, it, David Wilkerson wrote an article called "What Happens to the Church when Preachers No Longer Preach Against Sin." He wrote this article 2005. What happens to the church when preachers no longer preach against sin? And the whole article is about David's sin with Bathsheba, sexual sin. And then it comes to the point of Nathan the prophet, who was the king's court prophet, and he was godly and he preached against his sin. Uh, Nathan the prophet, quote, Nathan the prophet was David's pastor, and he wasn't afraid to expose the sin of his flock, including the king's own sin. I see Nathan as a type of godly shepherd who weeps over the sin in his congregation. It must have grieved him deeply that David, a man whom everyone looked to as godly and righteous, was covering up sin. So, you know, uh, a man of God's not, there's genuine faith, there's vision into the spirit world. I mean, are these other people that from this denomination I was talking about that just broke away from the Methodist Church, are they not blind guides leading the blind? Right? Are they not blind guides leading the blind? My site is about exposing sexual sin, exposing anti-charismatic attitudes, preaching about hell, and basically keeping people of the mentality of being spiritually minded, spiritual mindedness. That's the point of my site, right? Well, John Wesley is the kind of like the overseer of the whole thing, right? So these people just broke away from the Methodist Church. Should I not be surprised that the spirit of Albert Outler and naturalistic reductionism is still with them? No, I shouldn't be surprised. Who was I kidding? The only thing that they were able to do was come up with a nice Republican decision to break away from the Methodist Church over the gay marriage issue. A nice Republican move, right? Not a Bible move, but probably a Republican move. Politically correct. Spiritually lukewarm. Spiritually lukewarm. Where is the spirit of Dennis Kinlaw in any of this? It's not there. There is no evangelical Wesleyanism going on there. And it's just the fact, it's just the facts. It's facts, guys. It's facts. Where's the true evangelical Wesleyanism going on today? I believe it's going on in Church of God, Cleveland, Tennessee, and it's probably going on in the Interchurch Holiness Convention. Interchurch Holiness Convention, IHC. I've never been to any of their conferences. These people are anti-charismatic, though, as far as I understand. These are the non-Pentecostal holiness people. Interchurch Holiness Convention. Although it's hard for me to believe that groups can be entirely Wesleyan and at the same time not have any charismatic element. The Interchurch Holiness Convention, funny, their vice chairman right now is named Jonathan Edwards. That's funny. um, but um, but that's Kingsley Press, I believe, is associated with them, and they're the people that printed my book, The Gospel of Jesus Christ. Interchurch Holiness Convention is based in Beaver Springs, Pennsylvania. Um, and so I think you've got that, and then you've got Church of God, Cleveland, Tennessee. That's where you still have Wesleyanism, true Wesleyanism. And then I would also say, probably the Wesleyan Church. I've never been there, but you know, I had a really hard time getting a Wesleyan scholar to even look at my book, John Wesley on Money. And finally, Dr. Keith Drury did. And he's a retired professor of religion from Indiana Wesleyan University. And so that's the Wesleyan Church. Um, so if that means anything, I'm not saying I'm not saying that people have to approve my blog, people have to approve me, and that means that they're really Wesleyan. No, what I'm saying is that from a spiritual discernment point of view, from my own personal observations, when you see people rejecting outright with no reason, but beyond the shadow of a doubt that there's certain thematic material and certain content, certain spiritual themes and theological themes that they are intentionally avoiding, that they are literally censoring out, it is because they are lukewarm. It is because they are seeker sensitive. It is because they are cheap grace. It is because they are no lordship. It is because they are sloppy agape. And it's because they really do not preach the Bible the whole way. It's because they are finance-driven preachers. And they're not even deserve to be called preachers. They're just finance-driven. That's all. And so stay away. Stay away. It's dry rot. God bless out there. This is John with WesleyGospel.com.